My sister was the undisputed bimbo of our family. Gorgeous, fragile, and utterly brainless, or so everyone chose to believe. Every time I brought a boyfriend home, she had a habit of forgetting we had company and changing her clothes with her bedroom door wide open. That was how my first two relationships ended. The first guy couldn't keep his eyes off her, turning bright red as he lingered in the hallway. I dumped him on the spot. The second one pretended he hadn't seen a thing. But by midnight, he was DMing my sister on Instagram, asking if she was cold in that skimpy silk camisole and offering to buy her a jacket. When I broke down in tears and confronted my mother, she slammed her hand on the kitchen table. Chloe is just naive, she snapped. If she were doing it on purpose, do you think she'd forget to shut the door every single time? She doesn't have a malicious bone in her body. My father chimed in, dismissive as always. With your sister's IQ, Bridget, what is there to even argue about? Stop being so sensitive. So for 3 years, I stopped dating entirely until I met Derek. He was the most grounded, no-nonsense man I had ever known. His eyes were sharp, clear, and entirely free of the typical male pretension. When I finally brought him home for Christmas dinner, I pulled Chloe aside before we even crossed the threshold, practically begging her, keep your clothes on. Keep your door locked, please. Chloe nodded sweetly, her large doe-like eyes blinking with an innocent, harmless warmth. Yet the moment dinner ended and Derek stepped out of the kitchen, there it was. Her bedroom door was left half ajar. She stood with her back to the hallway, slowly changing into a silk slip, letting one delicate lace strap slide slowly down her shoulder. As I watched the reflection of her face through the crack in the door, I caught the unmistakable triumphant smirk playing on her lips. In that split second, the truth crystallized. Her weaponized incompetence was a performance staged entirely for my benefit. Fortunately for me, my boyfriend had a zero-tolerance policy for stupid games. Oh, I am so sorry. I completely forgot we had company tonight. Her hands clutching the slipping silk strap to her chest. She looked up at Derek, her eyes wide and watery, her shoulders trembling slightly like a frightened rabbit. It was a routine she had perfected over the years, play the innocent, act vulnerable, and disguise blatant boundary crossing as mere scatterbrain charm. With either of my exes, this would have triggered a stammered apology, a lingering gaze, or an awkward attempt to look away. Does your family keep an exhibitionist as a pet? Derek gasped, his stride never faltering. He didn't spare her a single glance. He grabbed her door handle and slammed the door shut. Bang. The heavy thud vibrated through the narrow hallway, shaking a faint dusting of plaster from the crown molding. The air in the corridor froze. From behind the closed door came a sharp, startled gasp, followed by the soft, theatrical whimpering of my sister. What on earth is going on out here? My mother, Helen, rushed out of the master bedroom, still clutching a half-folded sweater, her apron strings fluttering. My father, Robert, poked his head out from the balcony. Derek reached for a wet wipe from the dispenser on the entryway console, slowly and methodically cleaning his fingers. Nothing, he said, his voice dropping to a freezing temperature. As he tossed the wipe into the trash can. Just doing your daughter a favor and blocking the draft. Stripping with the door wide open in the dead of winter. The lack of blood flow to her head would cause hypothermia. Just then, Chloe pulled the door open. Wrapped in an oversized plush robe, her eyes were red, brimming with tears that threatened to spill over her perfectly made-up cheeks. Derek, did you have to slam the door so hard? She murmured. Her voice laced with a delicate, trembling sweetness. You scared me half to death. I just have a terrible memory. I forgot we had a guest. Please don't be angry with me. As she spoke, she shrunk back slightly behind me. Shrinking into herself like a wounded bird. Helen immediately rushed forward, wrapping her arms around her. Oh, sweetheart, it's okay. You know how forgetful you are, Helen cooed, before snapping her head toward me and Bridget. Honestly, you know how scatterbrained your sister is. If you're bringing a man home, the least you could do is check her room first to make sure she's decent. The first wave of moral blackmail delivered with practiced precision. I looked at my mother's face, so utterly convinced of her own righteousness. It was always my fault. Chloe was the fragile, innocent one who was allowed to make mistakes, and I, as the sensible younger sister, was expected to anticipate her blunders, clean up her messes, and bear the consequences. I told her to lock her door 3 separate times before we walked in, I said, my voice entire. Flat. Chloe's tears finally spilled over. Bridget, I'm so sorry. I really didn't do it on purpose. I was just thinking about something else and I got distracted. She looked up at Derek, her gaze wet and pleading. Derek, please don't blame Bridget. It's all my fault. I'm just so stupid. It was textbook manipulation. Admit fault first, display extreme vulnerability, and then plead protectively on my behalf to make herself look saintly while highlighting my coldness. Both of my previous relationships had withered under this exact sequence. I turned my head to look at Derek. I wanted to see if those clear, discerning eyes of his could see through this stale, toxic theater. Derek looked down at her. His face remained entirely expressionless, as though he were watching a particularly dull, low-budget comedy. Well, you've got one thing right. You are incredibly stupid, Derek said. His voice wasn't loud, but every word cut through the room like a scalpel. Chloe froze. Helen stared at him, her mouth slightly open. Neither of them had ever encountered someone who took the cute dumb girl routine and used it to step directly on her face. Knowing there is an adult male guest in the house and still failing to close a door while undressing isn't being scatterbrained. Derek continued, keeping his hands in his coat pockets as he looked down at her. It's a failure of basic life skills. And looking at your robe, the stitching is coming undone. Since your budget seems to be as low as your IQ, I highly suggest you learn to lock your door, lest people mistake your carelessness for a cheap solicitation. The silence in the hallway became absolute. Chloe's carefully applied no makeup look turned ashen. She stood paralyzed, her tears drying instantly on her cheeks. How dare you speak to my daughter like that, Robert boomed, storming over from the balcony and pointing an angry finger at Derek's chest. This is my house. My daughter can wear whatever she wants in her own home. You're a guest here. Who gave you the right to look at her and then insult her? Let's clear a few things up, Derek replied, meeting Robert's gaze without flinching. First, I didn't look. Flat chests don't appeal to my taste. Second, she left the door wide open, and the hallway is shared space. If you think raising a daughter to strip in full view of common areas is a sign of good parenting, I'll reserve judgment on your family values. He turned back to me, his tone instantly softening. Bridget, where's your coat? I picked up my heavy wool coat from the sofa. And Derek gently draped it over my shoulders, smoothing down my collar. Let's go. The air in here is making me nauseous. I looked at my parents' livid faces and then at Chloe, who looked as if she were about to collapse. Instead of the panic I expected to feel, a strange, intoxicating sense of relief washed over me. Okay, I said. I zipped up my coat and followed him toward the door. Behind us, Helen was shaking with rage. Bridget, if you walk out that door with him tonight, don't you dare call me your mother ever again. I stopped at the threshold. I didn't turn around. Fine by me. Derek pulled the heavy front door open, letting a gust of crisp, freezing winter air sweep into the stifling apartment. Bridget, Mom is just speaking out of anger. You know how she is, Chloe cried out from the hallway, her voice finally losing its soft, breathy cadence, replaced by an edge of sheer desperation. Derek let out a low, dry chuckle. As we stepped into the corridor, did you hear that? He murmured, looking down at me. Even the dumb ones bite when you take away their stage. You have a remarkably mean streak, I said as I buckled my seatbelt. Derek started the engine, his long fingers resting casually on the leather-wrapped steering wheel. I call it being a realist. If she were truly as brainless as she claims, she wouldn't have understood my insults well enough to get angry. She would have smiled and thanked me for the feedback. He turned the wheel, navigating the car out of my parents' neighborhood. That little routine of hers. The interns at my firm have better manipulation tactics. On day one, I looked out the window as the streetlights blurred past. The heavy stone that had rested on my chest for over 20 years felt as though it had finally been cracked open, letting in a breath of fresh air. Chloe had been the sun around which our entire household revolved. When she ruined my school projects, Helen would say, your sister is just clumsy, Bridget. Can't you just do it over? When she took the dresses I bought with my own money, Robert would say, she loves fashion and she looks so beautiful in them. Just let her have them. Even when it came to my personal life, all Chloe had to do was put on her wide-eyed, fragile act and shed a few tears in front of my boyfriends, and suddenly they would view her as a delicate flower and me as a bitter, jealous shrew. No one had ever stripped away her armor the way Derek just did. My phone began to buzz incessantly in my purse. I pulled it out. It was a barrage of voice texts from my mother. The red notification dots looked like fresh drops of blood on the screen. I tapped the first one, letting the audio play. Bridget, you think you're so clever, don't you? Bringing some classless, disrespectful man into our home to humiliate your sister. Chloe has never had a harsh word said to her in her entire life, and now she sobbed herself to sleep because of him. I listened, my face entirely blank. I tapped the second one. You tell that Derek character to come back here. And apologize to your sister right now, or you are no longer welcome in this family. We clothed you and fed you, and this is how you repay us, hanging up with an outsider to bully your own flesh and blood. Derek heard every word clearly over the car's quiet cabin. He let out a dark, mocking laugh. Does your mother get her scripts from bad 90s daytime television? I locked my phone and tossed it back into my purse. I'm used to it. Being used to it doesn't make it acceptable. Derek brought the car to a halt at a red light and turned to look at me, his eyes dark and fiercely protective. Are you planning on taking this forever? I stared back into his deep, clear eyes. No, I said. Not anymore. I want everything she's ever taken from me back. With interest. A slow, brilliant smile spread across Derek's face. Let me know when you're ready to make your move. There is nothing I enjoy more than watching a fraud fall apart. The next morning, I woke up with exactly one thought. If Chloe wanted to play stupid, I was going to let her. I was just going to stop protecting her from the consequences. Derek was already awake when I walked into the kitchen of his apartment. He had somehow managed to make coffee while wearing a perfectly pressed shirt, and he looked annoyingly composed for someone who had helped me declare war on my entire family 12 hours earlier. He slid a mug toward me. Morning, Diva. I stared at him. Diva? You spent 20 minutes choosing earrings before breakfast. They matter. I know. I took a sip of coffee and smiled. You're learning. Derek laughed. For the first time in years, I looked at myself in the mirror and actually liked what I saw. I wasn't the jealous sister. I wasn't the difficult daughter. I wasn't the woman who had to constantly prove she wasn't cruel. I was Bridget. And I was done begging people to treat me properly. Then my phone rang. Mom. I declined it. It rang again. Declined. Again. I turned it off. Derek raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't you hear what she's screaming about? No. I grabbed my handbag. She can scream into the void. By noon, I discovered exactly what the emergency was. Chloe had posted a photo. Her face was swollen from crying, her eyes glossy, wrapped in an enormous cream cardigan. The caption read, sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. Underneath it were hundreds of comments. What happened? Are you okay? Your sister sounds horrible. Men like Derek are terrifying. I stared at the screen for 3 seconds. Then I burst out laughing. Derek looked over from his laptop. What? She made herself the victim online. He leaned back. Classic. Oh, she's good. I opened Instagram. And she's about to learn that I'm better. I posted a photo of myself. Black blazer. Gold hoops. Sunglasses. Red lipstick. Coffee in one hand. Derek's expensive car behind me. Caption. Some people confuse consequences with cruelty. Then I turned off comments. I wasn't interested in arguing with strangers. I wanted Chloe to wonder what I knew. Within 10 minutes, my phone exploded. Not from strangers. From family. MOM, delete that post. Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. CHLOE, Bridget, why are you doing this to me? I smiled. Then I typed. Me, doing what? Three dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. CHLOE, you know exactly what you're doing. I laughed so hard Derek looked over. She's admitting it. Save everything. Already did. That afternoon, I went back to my parents' house. Not because they invited me. Because I wanted my things. I wore a fitted black dress, thigh-high boots, gold jewelry, and the expression of a woman who had absolutely nothing to apologize for. Mom opened the door. Her face dropped. You actually came back? For my belongings. You're being ridiculous. I know. I walked past her. She followed. Your sister hasn't eaten all day because of you. That's tragic. She cried herself to sleep. Should I send flowers? Bridget. I turned around. Mom, I'm not doing this anymore. She stared at me. You're my daughter. And Chloe is yours too. Funny how that never seemed to matter when she was ruining my relationships. Mom's expression hardened. You're jealous of her. I smiled. There it was. The oldest accusation in the family handbook. Absolutely. She blinked. I shrugged. She's gorgeous. I'd be jealous too if I had to live off other people's boyfriends. Mom slapped her hand against the wall. How dare you? Oh, I dare plenty. I walked upstairs. My old bedroom looked exactly as I remembered it. Except half my clothes were gone. I opened the closet. Empty. I stared. Then I walked into Chloe's room. There they were. My dresses. My shoes. My handbags. Even the pearl necklace Grandma had given me before she died. All arranged beautifully. Chloe sat at her vanity. She slowly looked at me through the mirror. I thought Mom gave those to me. I picked up my necklace. Mom didn't give you this. She said you weren't using it. I smiled. That's adorable. Chloe's eyes narrowed. You've changed. No. I put the necklace around my neck. I've just stopped pretending you're stupid. Her expression cracked. For the first time, the doe-eyed little sister disappeared. Something much uglier looked back at me from the mirror. You think Derek is going to save you? No. I adjusted my earrings. That's the difference between us. I leaned toward her. I don't need a man to save me. Her jaw tightened. But you brought him home specifically to humiliate me. No, Chloe. I smiled. You humiliated yourself. Derek simply had the audacity to notice. She stood abruptly. You're going to regret this. I laughed. Oh, sweetheart. I picked up my handbag. You've been saying that for 20 years. Then I walked out. Except Chloe made one mistake. She thought I was interested in ruining her reputation. I wasn't. I wanted her to have exactly what she'd always wanted. Attention. So I gave her more. The next morning, I sent an anonymous email to a popular gossip account. Attached were screenshots. Not of Chloe changing clothes. Not of anything private. Just her messages to my exes. The flirtatious ones. The late-night invitations. The messages where she mocked me afterward. And one particularly disgusting conversation where she bragged that she could steal any boyfriend I brought home because nobody ever believed the jealous sister. By lunchtime, the screenshots were everywhere. Chloe's carefully constructed image of an innocent little angel collapsed in hours. Then something unexpected happened. Her old admirers started posting their own screenshots. Apparently, I wasn't the only woman she'd done this to. By evening, Chloe's phone number had become radioactive. Mom called me 37 times. Dad sent 12 messages. Chloe sent one. CHLOE, what do you want? I stared at it. Then smiled. Me, nothing. A second message arrived. CHLOE, then why are you doing this? I typed slowly. Me, because you spent 20 years taking things from me. I paused. Then added. Me, I'm simply taking my life back. Derek walked into the room carrying 2 glasses of champagne. He looked at my phone. Victory? I raised my glass. Phase 1. He smiled. How many phases? I took a sip. As many as it takes. Derek laughed. You're terrifying. I winked. No, baby. I grabbed my coat. I'm expensive. And for once, everyone else was going to pay the bill. 3 days later, Chloe's perfect little victim act was dead. Her messages to my exes had spread everywhere, and suddenly every person who had ever called her sweet was questioning what they'd been fooled by. Mom begged me to delete everything. I refused. Dad threatened to cut me off. I told him he was saving me the trouble. Then Chloe made her final mistake. She showed up at my workplace crying. Bridget, please. I just want my sister back. I stared at her. You never wanted a sister. You wanted an accessory you could steal from. Her expression twisted. You think you've won? I smiled. No, Chloe. I handed her an envelope. I know I have. Inside were copies of every message she'd sent my exes, every time she'd lied about me, and every conversation where she'd admitted she knew exactly what she was doing. Her face went white. You recorded me? No. I winked. You were just stupid enough to put everything in writing. She stood there speechless. Then Derek appeared beside me. Are we done? I slipped my arm through his. Completely. As we walked away, Chloe screamed my name. I didn't turn around. For 20 years, she had been the beautiful sister. The innocent one. The fragile one. The favorite. But now? She could keep the title. I had something better. My freedom. And, honestly? It looked fabulous on me. Chloe's downfall didn't happen in one dramatic explosion. It happened everywhere. First, the university she had been planning to attend withdrew her scholarship after discovering that several of her recommendation letters had been manipulated. Then the boutique where she worked fired her after customers started posting screenshots of her private messages. The worst part? People she'd once manipulated started talking. One ex posted. She told me Bridget was obsessed with me. Turns out she was the one sending me messages at 2 a.m. Another wrote. She deliberately left her bedroom door open. I thought I was imagining things. Then a third woman uploaded screenshots showing Chloe had tried the exact same routine with her boyfriend. The internet put the pieces together. Chloe wasn't forgetful. She wasn't innocent. She was calculated. And suddenly, every person who had defended her felt stupid. My mother still refused to believe it. She called me screaming. You destroyed your sister. I laughed. No, Mom. I stopped covering for her. You've ruined her life. She did that herself. Then I hung up. 2 weeks later, Chloe came crawling back. She stood outside my apartment wearing sunglasses despite the fact that it was raining. Her designer clothes were gone. Her expensive handbag was gone. Even her perfectly styled hair looked neglected. Bridget. I opened the door halfway. What? I need money. I nearly laughed in her face. You're joking. Just lend me some. I'll pay you back. Of course. Her eyes brightened. How much? $5. Her face collapsed. Are you serious? Completely. You know I need more than that. I smiled. Then sell something. She clenched her fists. You're enjoying this. Immensely. She stared at me with pure hatred. You're horrible. I leaned against the doorframe. No, Chloe. I'm just no longer useful to you. That broke something inside her. She screamed, you're nothing without Derek. I laughed. That's adorable. I stepped outside. You spent 20 years stealing attention from me because you thought being beautiful was enough to own everyone. I pulled my sunglasses down. But Derek didn't fall for you. I smiled. And neither did I. I shut the door. That was the last time Chloe ever came to my apartment. Months passed. She lost her social circle. Her job. Her scholarship. Her reputation. Even Helen eventually stopped defending her when Chloe emptied their joint savings account and disappeared for 3 days. My parents' perfect little family shattered. Robert blamed Helen. Helen blamed Robert. And both blamed Chloe. Chloe ended up moving into a tiny apartment across town, working double shifts at a restaurant just to survive. She had wanted everyone looking at her. Now people looked through her. Meanwhile, my life became almost offensively good. I bought my own place. Got promoted. Started traveling. And married Derek in a small ceremony overlooking the ocean. At the reception, my mother approached me. She looked exhausted. Bridget. I smiled politely. Mom. She glanced at Derek, then back at me. Are you happy? I looked around at my friends, my husband, my beautiful life. Then I looked directly into her eyes. Very. She nodded sadly. I suppose Chloe was always the prettier one. I laughed. Maybe. I took Derek's hand. But I was always the one with a brain. Derek choked on his champagne. I burst out laughing. And for the first time, nobody told me to apologize for it. I had spent years being punished for noticing Chloe's cruelty. Now she was finally living without an audience willing to pretend she was innocent. And me? I wasn't bitter. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was too busy being fabulous.